I, 43 female, was married to Kay until he passed away in a road accident 7 years ago. Since getting married to Kay, we had lived in his childhood home. The house had 6 bedrooms with ensuite bathrooms accompanied by a large courtyard. The house was rented by Kay's parents when they first moved to the state, and Kay continued living in it even after his parents passed away. His brothers L and M moved out though. The rent for the house was a lot lower than what the rent would be for a house of that size in the neighborhood, but still much higher than what a 3-bedroom apartment would cost. But Kay refused to part with the house, even though he didn't need such a large house with just 2 kids. Just a few months before Kay passed away, the owners contacted me that they were moving to another country and wanted to sell the house. I felt really emotional, so I decided to buy it. I didn't bother informing this to my 2 brother-in-laws, since they never seemed to have had any attachment to the house. A year ago, my boyfriend of 3 years got transferred to another state by his company. Since my work is flexible, I agreed to move. I didn't want to sell the house, so I put it up for rent, and it has become quite a good source of income for me. About a week ago, my L called me angrily asking why I duped him and M out of money. Turns out, he was in my old neighborhood to show his childhood home to his kids, and found out I was the new owner of the house through conversation with the tenants. Basically, he said I should have asked for his permission before letting strangers live in the place where he and his siblings spent their childhood, and that I was dishonoring Kay's memory. He said that he deserved a share in the profits I make from the house, since it's his house too. A few hours later, I also got angry texts from M who reiterated what L said. Most of L and M's family have been constantly messaging me to give all the money I make from the house for the next year to L and M, to make up for what they lost. I originally didn't think I was wrong, but L's wife informed me that L and M were both having financial issues owing to the virus, and I was being incredibly inconsiderate, and that Kay would have wanted me to help his brothers. On asking my children's opinions, they said that I should give the money because of the monetary issues, since I didn't need it considering I have a stable job. I'm feeling really guilty now, and I'm not sure anymore. I'm exhausted trying to argue and justify myself. I'm thinking of just giving in at this point, considering everyone but my boyfriend seems to think I am the one in the wrong. Am I the a-hole? Wait, you bought a house, now using it as an investment, and your brother-in-laws think they're entitled to your income because they once lived there? Yeah, not the a-hole. Brother-in-laws must think you're dumb for trying that nonsense. Also, their money problems aren't your problems. Edit. The wife is not your friend, nor does she have your best interest in mind. Just go no contact. These people are toxic. Not the a-hole. Your husband and brother-in-laws did not own this house. It was a rental, and you were the tenant. It was the house where they were raised, but they were not owners. You bought the house. Your brother-in-laws did not participate in that purchase. They are not entitled to any financial profit from owning the house. They are allowed to say that is the house where they were raised. It sucks that the virus was hard on them financially. That does not entitle them to your assets. Do not give them any money. Doesn't matter that they were your husband's family or that they are trying their best to guilt and manipulate you into it. Doesn't matter that right now you are financially stable because nobody knows what tomorrow brings. Build your nest egg and retirement account. Your brother-in-laws can do that on their own, not off of you. Not the a-hole. It was never owned by their parents, but rented. The original owner put it up for sale, and they still were not interested. You invest in the house, live there, and then moved and rented it. It is 100% your house, your money. They did not contribute to buying the house, its upkeep, its taxes. Only after they realize that it is a source of income are they interested. Do not fall for it. My father-in-law owned 2 businesses, a trucking company and a real estate business. He gave the trucking company to my brother-in-law and the real estate business to my husband. Now, both of them don't interfere in each other's business, but they share the profits. My brother-in-law doesn't know or care about my husband's business dealings and earnings, and the same goes for my husband. They share a joint bank account, and both of them don't care how much money they withdraw and how much they deposit. I was fine with the arrangement until my brother-in-law gifted an expensive sports car to his son. My son doesn't own an expensive sports car because my husband never gifted him one. I thought maybe he is undercutting us by keeping most of the profits for himself. So I asked my husband to start keeping an eye on the trucking business because clearly something is happening, and he is just not interested. He doesn't even know how many trucks his brother owns, on what routes they travel, what kind of loads they take, what are the profits like. He doesn't know anything. He is least bothered by it. I'm worried because my brother-in-law lives in a much bigger house than us. They drive big cars, wear nice clothes, go on vacations, etc. He tells me that whatever money he earns from his business is his brother's, and whatever money his brother earns from his business is his. He also tells me that they both are very close and trust each other, and that I'm unnecessarily trying to put fire between them. He also called me an a-hole for trying to ruin their relationship. I'm about to be very unpopular here. I don't think you're a complete a-hole. You have every right to be concerned about the money situation, since it does affect you. You're married, and his income is part of the family's income. I suspect the brother is taking advantage of the situation, and your husband is too afraid to stand up to him. This definitely seems sketchy. But you've said your piece. You may have to stand back and watch your husband be taken advantage of. With a shared account, I don't know if there could be any liability on hubby's part if brother isn't running everything by the book. I'd ask a lawyer. All that being said, I do understand the other side of the coin. Sometimes people need an outside perspective. Your husband needs to open his eyes. You're the a-hole. Your husband is right. Your brother-in-law can do what he likes with his profits and business. I'm making the assumption that while your husband doesn't monitor the trucking business, he does have an idea of what comes and goes from the joint account. I'm sure if there was a massive discrepancy there, he would bring it up to his brother. You're not necessarily the a-hole, but you will definitely become the a-hole if you keep on persisting with this. You should definitely let it go, since your husband also doesn't care about it. If you're financially secure, the money your brother-in-law makes or how he makes it shouldn't affect you. Neither the fact that him and your father-in-law have more money or bigger estates, etc. My sister, 33 female, and her then boyfriend, 33 male, set up a business when they had been dating for over 2 years. He's a chef who runs his own cafe. He and his mom had been making their own condiments, jams, pickles, chutneys, etc., which they had been planning to sell for a while. In 2020, they decided to fully launch a business and start retailing them. He asked my sister to join him in setting up his business, and in May 2020, they actively started planning and strategizing. From July 2020 to July 2021, my sister was actively a part of this company. He and his mom would make up the condiments. My sister ideated and came up with the packaging and branding mostly on her own. In July, as they bought the packaging materials and started planning sales, he was staying at our place. He's from a different, more remote town, and they were working about 18 hours a day. Their work involved buying and arranging relevant packaging and branding material, manually bottling the condiments, packaging them by hand, which was a process that involved several steps, promotion material, processing orders, and so on. He told my sister he could either make her a co-owner of this company or give her a fixed income every month, and they mutually decided that she would become a mutual shareholder in the company. My sister spent the year working on packaging, branding, promotion, orders. The business was doing well, and their condiments were selling fast. After a few months, he shifted his base back to his hometown where he got a team to do the manual packaging, while my sister was still helping with sending orders, managing promotion and social media, processing orders, working with him on new products, and so on. Meanwhile, she spent quite a bit of her own money on this, and the paperwork for making her a shareholder was never processed. But since they were dating, she never gave it much thought. He never paid her any profits or income from the company either, because they planned to figure it out when the paperwork was done. In July 2021, they broke up. The breakup was abrupt and unpleasant. My sister told him it was too painful for her to continue working with the company. He was understanding of that. He paid her back 2/3 of the money she had spent on the company. However, he hasn't mentioned anything about paying her for her work, time and effort she put into the company, and still hasn't paid her back the remaining amount. Now my sister wants to know if he's going to 1. Pay her back the amount he owes her, and 2. Pay her what is technically owed her for the work she put in. She wants to ask him about it, but worries she'll come off as petty and cheap asking him to pay her, because they never agreed on an amount and never finalized her becoming a shareholder. For context, she's still very hurt about the way they broke up and has been actively not engaging with him, so to ask for the money would be her breaking that silence. Not the a-hole, but I hope she has something in writing to back up her position. She is probably going to have to sue him. It's a big decision. The legal system is not a fast one, and legal fees are high. She needs to weigh whether it is worth it or if it's better to cut her contact now, move on, and chalk it up to lesson learned. You would not be the a-hole, but why do you think he would talk to her about it? Your sister needs to separate personal from business. She can't both give her ex the silent treatment and discuss fair compensation for her work. She needs to do this herself. Not the a-hole, but she's probably going to get screwed over. I honestly feel terribly about what happened. I don't know if I did something that can classify me as an a-hole, so I'm asking you. Please do tell me your honest opinion. Thanks in advance for reading this. My wife, fake name, Hannah, 32 female, and I, 32 female, had invited my sister-in-law, fake name, Anne, 28 female, and her family over for lunch. We all had a good time. Our kids were playing together in the garden after we ate. We have 2 daughters. My sister-in-law has 2 sons and a daughter. So I was putting the dishes in the dishwasher. Anne came by my side and started up a conversation about how I saw many complicated diseases at work. I'm a neurologist. I have the unfortunate habit of getting a bit over myself when someone mentions something about my work. So my sister-in-law mentioned a disease and said she had read up on it and asked me what it really was. I went on to explain. I don't want to mention exactly what it was, but most people who have it only last until their early 20s. When I was done putting dishes in the dishwasher, I turned to look at Anne, and she had tears in her eyes. It was heartbreaking. Hannah came in and asked me what was going on. I said I talked about a disease, and it may have gotten her emotional a bit, because it was unfortunately not a treatable one. Anne got her kids immediately and left. Hannah and I were both extremely confused. Later, Anne's husband called me and told me I was an absolute a-hole for doing what I did to Anne. I still didn't know what it was that I had done. Turns out, one of Anne's sons had been diagnosed with that disease, and she was asking me to see if it was as bad as his doctor made it sound. I genuinely had no idea. My wife sometimes asks me questions the same way, and I thought it was because of genuine interest in something she had read up on. My mother-in-law also gave Hannah a call and said I should apologize for how I acted with Anne. Hannah said that there was nothing to apologize for anyway. She said she knew her wife, and she was sure that if I knew, I would have been extremely sensitive. Anyways, I later convinced Hannah to get some flowers. We went to Anne's house. I handed her the flowers and said I was sorry and that I didn't know, and that I would be with her if there was anything she needed me to do. She called me an a-hole and told me I couldn't fix what I had done with stupid flowers. I didn't argue. We came back home. Now I know she is going through a lot. However, I was also wondering if I'm the major a-hole here. Please, if I am, do tell me so. Not the a-hole. You were asked a question with no context and answered it as an expert in the field would. It's heartbreaking for her, but her anger is wholly misplaced on you. But she also probably just needs someone to be mad at right now and for a while. You apologized. Time to give some space while letting them know you're still there for them. Not the a-hole. Don't worry, you did nothing wrong. Anne asked you a question and you answered it. How are you supposed to know her child was diagnosed with it without her telling you? Telepathy? Honestly though, maybe just wait. I think Anne is probably in a world of hurt, and I think she'll come around eventually. Not the a-hole. Your sister-in-law could have told you before asking the question if she wanted a more sensitive answer. You have done everything correctly the way I see it. But be patient with sister-in-law, as it's an extremely difficult time for her. I'm sure she'll come around and get past this. She sure needs your support and expertise. My boyfriend, 30 male, has a daughter, Haley, 11 female. Haley's mother left when she was around 1, and my boyfriend is pretty uninvolved as a father. When Haley was 6 months old, her mom was dealing with some mental health issues, so my boyfriend hired a nanny, Laura, to do everything baby-related. He had Laura move in within a couple of months of Haley's mom leaving, and Laura is still working for my boyfriend today. Laura is very close with my boyfriend's family. She's with the family every holiday, and honestly, I think they like her better than me. My boyfriend says she's become a good friend over the years, and he and Laura go out at least once a month. And Laura is extremely involved in Haley's life. She's room mom at her school. I didn't know you could be room mom without being a mom. She's at every play, concert, soccer game, etc. She even goes to Haley's therapy appointments. Haley doesn't do anything for herself because of Laura. Laura wakes her up, packs her backpack and lunch, and does her hair every morning, and does homework with her every afternoon. She tucks Haley in every night and sits with her until she falls asleep. Haley is very attached to Laura, and Laura is to Haley. Laura even takes Haley out with her on her days off. Haley has been disinterested in getting closer with me, and her dad and I honestly think it's because of Laura. I was talking to my boyfriend and said that Haley's too attached to Laura and suggested that he be more involved in Haley's life since he's now in a better position to be a father, and we can have Laura move out. Haley heard us and is heartbroken and terrified. She's refusing to speak to me or leave Laura's side. She's faked being sick at school so many times this week that they don't want her to come back today. Laura says Haley hasn't been sleeping and is worried about her. My boyfriend is blaming me for all of this, but there's no way I could have known that Haley would be eavesdropping or that she'd get this scared. Am I the a-hole here? Well, let's see. She's got no bio mom. Dad is uninvolved, and you're letting your jealousy and insecurities destroy the only parental relationship she's ever known. Oh, and she's not your stepdaughter. She's your boyfriend's daughter. And your boyfriend should step up for his daughter and get more involved. But that's a gradual process that doesn't begin with throwing out the only mom your boyfriend's daughter has ever known. You're the a-hole, like a-hole of the month so far. You're the a-hole, massively so. You enter Haley's life, and the first thing you do is destroy the one constant in her life. The one thing that has been constant, and she could always count on. Haley needs a lot of therapy, and a lot less of you. You're the a-hole. You want to separate her from her primary caregiver. By your own admission, her father is fairly detached from her. This woman is filled in as her mother her entire life, a decade. Nanny, in turn, is clearly dedicated to this child. This is not a small relationship. This is a big one. You, as girlfriend, are not in a position to disrupt it. It's great to want to encourage your boyfriend to become a more invested father. That's a lovely quality. It's also wonderful to seek out more opportunities to get to know daughter. But it is a scary thought to her to hear you want her mom figure to leave. Maybe you can change the boundaries and arrangement years from now. Lord knows their relationship should change as she grows up. It will have to be by necessity. But this is not the way to start, and not this way. This is a concern for Haley and Dad, and probably a family therapist, not you.